What's up, Planeswalkers? It's your boy K-Dog. We're back in Historic with a Golgari Deathtouch list. So a lot of these cards are already in Standard, and we've kind of seen some Deathtouch lists floating around thanks to cards like Hooded Blightfang, which is pretty sweet. Going in Historic, though, gives us access to things like Gifted Aetherborn. It's a nice card from the Kaladesh block. 2 mana, double black for a 2/3 Deathtouch lifelinker. It's pretty fantastic. And then, of course, out of the sideboard, we have Thoughtseize, which is one of the key cards in all of Historic. So running 3 here in the sideboard. And the rest of it is pretty much standard. We do have another card here in Rhonas the Indomitable. We're just running as a one of it. It's a 3 mana 5/5 Deathtouch Indestructible. However, like all the other gods from the Eminence block, it can't attack or block unless some condition is met. This one, you have to have a creature power 4 or greater. However, it has activated ability like all the other gods do, where you can kind of trigger it so that you can actually get it to become help it in a spot where it can't attack or block. So pay 3 mana and then give another target creature +2/+0 and trample until end of turn. So it is a good situation. We do have a lot of 1 powered Deathtouch, like the Hooded Blightfang obviously is one of them, and things like that. So it's not always good. That's why we're just running 1 copy. However, it is a Deathtouch creature, and it can pump our other creatures, if nothing else, to give them trample, which obviously works really well with Deathtouch, because you just do 1 point of damage to kill the creature, and then the rest of it tramples through. So obviously that's pretty sweet. And just running 1 copy here of Liliana's Reaver. It's a 4 mana 4/3 Deathtouch zombie. And whenever the Reaver deals damage to a player, combat damage, that player discards a card, and you get a tap 2/2 zombie creature token. So this can be very good situationally. That's why I'm just running 1 copy here. So you definitely, if you don't have this, probably not worth crafting a rare for it. Just run something else. We are running just 2 of Vraska, Swarm's Eminence. Don't think she's very good, but we are in a Deathtouch list, so if I want to run at least a couple copies here of Swarm's Eminence. But if you don't have something like a Liliana's Reaver or whatever, then yeah, just run 3. And if you must insist, you could run all 4. That is an uncommon, so it shouldn't be too hard to craft for most players. But Vraska, excuse me, is our Deathtouch queen here. Whenever a creature deals damage to a player or a planeswalker, you get a +1/+1 counter on it, as long as they have Deathtouch, which all of our creatures do except for one of them. And then we can -2 to make a 1/1 assassin with Deathtouch, and whenever that token deals damage to a planeswalker, we destroy that planeswalker. That's pretty cool. So it can definitely throw off your opponent if they don't read, which this is Arena, there's lots of newer players and things like that don't necessarily take the time to read cards, and they just net deck and don't necessarily know what they're doing. They just play overpowered cards and they just win because they play broken cards. Running 3 here of Questing Beast, obviously pretty fantastic. And Garruk, obviously the trample. Works with a little Deathtouch, +1, give a +3/+3 and trample. And of course, a lot of the Deathtouch creatures tend to make up for having the Deathtouch keyword by being lower stats. So pumping them up with the Garruk is pretty nice. And making it a 3/3 beast token is pretty cool. Also have 2 copies here of Vivien, just for a little bit of spice. 3 mana for Loyalty Planeswalker. We can cast creature spells as though they had flash. So imagine if your opponent knows you're running a Deathtouch list and you have a Vivien out on the field and open mana. Do they really want to attack in, knowing you might flash in a Deathtouch creature? Maybe. And then you can +1 to give one of your creatures Vigilance and Reach. Obviously Deathtouch doesn't typically have flying or reach, so Vivien can kind of help address that as well. And we can -2 to dig 3 cards deep looking for a creature card. As long as they remain exile, we can cast that creature spell. So if Vivien's out in play, we can cast it at flash speed, as the passive ability says. If Vivien dies after we have -2, we still have that card in exile we can cast, but we just can't cast it at flash speed. So something to keep in mind. One of our creatures that does not have Deathtouch here is Midnight Reaper. Just a nice value engine. You know, we're playing a lot of Deathtouch creatures, so with Hooded Blightfang, we're pretty incentivized to attack in, and obviously with Deathtouch means we're going to be able to kill our opponent's creatures most likely, unless they have like first strike. That's kind of the only thing that really gets around Deathtouch, or of course Indestructible. But yeah, if our creatures die, we don't really mind because we can just draw some cards off of it. And just a 3 mana 3/2 is pretty reasonable of itself. 3 copies here of Chevill, nice another Deathtouch creature here, and we can put bounty counters on things, and then when they die, either from losing them in combat or from some target or removal, whatever, then we get to draw a card and gain some life. So that's pretty cool. Running some catch-all removal here and 3 Assassin's Trophy. You know, we have Deathtouch, so we can easily kill creatures with that. But having Assassin's Trophy kind of deal with other permanents, I think it's pretty key, and especially in Historic, there's definitely lots of different there's a variety of threats you have to have answers for. Planeswalkers obviously are a big one, And then even like enchantments and artifacts can be pretty troublesome. So having a kind of a main deck answer for those is pretty key when you already have answers for creatures in the form of Deathtouch. A couple copies here of Direfleet Poisoner. That's another one of the historic cards from the Ixalan block. 2 mana 2/2 as Flash and Deathtouch. So you can flash this in on your opponent's combat step and potentially block something and trade up. We don't really have any other pirates, but if we had like one of these out in play and we flash the other one in, we give that the first one +1/+1 until end of turn. So that's pretty cool. Vampire of the Dire Moon is our featured 1-drop here. 1/1 Deathtouch lifelink. It's pretty fantastic. And we also have 3 copies here of Knight of the Ebon Legion. Just 3 copies because it doesn't naturally have Deathtouch, but it is just a fantastic creature. We'd have to pay 3 mana to give it Deathtouch. So that's pretty fine, but it's kind of situation we don't always want to pay 3 mana. We might want to probably going to be wanting to add to the board more often, get our Deathtouch creatures down and kind of go wide for a Hooded Blightfang. But obviously in the late game, being able to activate this is pretty fantastic. So I think it's worth running just 3 copies and then kind of focusing on creatures that naturally have the Deathtouch. Mana base here, we have also 3 and 4 drops that are pretty important, so we definitely want to have kind of try to curve out as consistently as possible. We're in 24 lands. Obviously with all of our Deathtouch, we're going to be killing lots of stuff, so we don't want to have some graveyard interaction here in the main, so I think it's worth running a copy of Bojuka Bog for that. When it comes down, we exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Obviously we're going to be choosing our opponents. A couple Castle Locthwains. Sometimes we get into stalemates, or our opponent just on tons of removal, and so we need obviously ways to kind of draw ourselves out of those situations. We're mostly black, so we got 7 swamps here as well, just the 4 forests. And then for dual lands, running 4 Overgrown Tombs, 4 Woodland Cemetery, and some additional fixing and a little bit of scry action. A couple copies here of Temple of Malady. All right, sideboard, obviously we saw the 3 Thoughtseizes already. A couple Tormods, Crypt for some additional graveyard hate. It's pretty clutch. A couple Grafdigger's Cage shuts down a lot of things. Obviously Escape or Goblins, Monodas, similar effects, things like that. 3 Kitesail Freebooters, another way to kind of look at our opponent's hand and kind of get some tempo them out while we kind of swing through with a bunch of damage on our Hooded Blightfangs and things like that. So slow them down, be able to cast their Shadow the Skies. Just got some removal spells here. I think Murderous Rider is probably where you want to be, just having something that kills like anything, whether it's a creature or a planeswalker, is worth it. 2 copies here of Witch's Vengeance if you're up against a tribal deck, which there are quite a few. Obviously Merfolk, Knights, Goblins, of course, and most of our creatures don't really fall into that, so we're not really too worried about that. Zombies. So there's definitely lots of tribal decks run around in Historic, so having a couple Witch's Vengeance I think is pretty clutch. So it just gives the creatures of that type -3/-3, and it leaves our creatures unaffected for the most part. 1 copy here of Gruesome Menagerie. We have lots of 1, 2, and 3 drops that are pretty important to our list, and if we're running against like those Wrath of God, Shadow of the Sky type of decks, then we can run a Gruesome Menagerie and just kind of rebuild with 3 creatures all at once, and then hopefully start doing some nasty things the following turn. Alright, against VFX Hack. Seems okay. We have a 1-drop and a Blightfang and a Vraska. A little bit slow, but not the worst. We have the 4 manas, a little Swamp and a Temple. And we'll see what happens. Crypt Breaker, alright, right to zombies. See what type of zombies list they're running. Like mono black so far. And Diagraph, cool. See if they get aggressive here. If they do, we might want to get the Midnight Reaper down. Swing 5 here, or they can be patient and give them Menace next turn. Alright, well, our opponent went first, and they've curved out pretty decently. So we'll sit back on defense. Can always trade and draw a card with the Vampire. Another Lord of the First. We have Deathtouch, so that's definitely going to give him something to think about. So there's 2 to activate. Yep. so they don't have a way to do that. They can start drawing a million cards here. That's gonna help them out quite a bit. Gifted Aetherborn. Let's be mana efficient and play our Vraska. She probably dies, but we're not attacking, putting counters on things anyway, so let's get a creature and maybe soak up some... she can soak up some damage if they want to swing into her instead of our life total. Yep, draw cards. Crypt Breaker. You can do it. Alright. So that Crypt Breaker online, they got a Castle Locthwain, so they definitely have the card advantage going on us. No removal in sight, and if we did, probably be a little bit too late. We have a couple Lord of the Curse we have to deal with. We have a Crypt Breaker that's giving them a ton of card advantage to deal with. And they just Murderous Rider, Vraska. I'm not sure that was worth it, but I mean, they're still in a pretty commanding spot, so they have a lot of room for error here. Garruk. Yeah, I think I just kind of want to play two creatures here. We don't have good attacks. They've got a pretty big board there, and they're going to start giving their creatures menace. So we just kind of need to go wide and hope we can outvalue them. Not looking too good here though. They're just going to keep drawing a million cards, find some removal spells, find some Lord effects. Yeah. Too much value from the zombies there. After slow start, not in any sort of position to attack. Vivien's pretty terrible in this matchup, which is Vengeance. Is okay. Gonna bring Grafdigger's Cage, shut down like Dread Wanderers. Don't really love Vraska. Although Rhonas is a little meh. I'll actually take out Rhonas here. It's good when you're the aggressor, but if we're gonna be on the defense when they're just going wide, flooding the board with zombies, then not as good. So with the Gruesome Menagerie, we can just block with confidence, knowing that we potentially draw into a Gruesome Menagerie and kind of rebuild our board state. If they're smart, they probably have similar effects, or they just have a ton of card draw to make up for it. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, Deathtouch had reasonable at some of the lower levels of ranked, but now we're approaching Diamond. We're kind of just getting our butts handed to us left and right. But we're going to give it a try. We are giving it a try. Gotta go first. I mean, 2 Questing Beasts is always nice to see, but we do need some lands, obviously, to get there. So, Vampire, and we can flash in the Poisoner for what it's worth. And with this kind of land, we're just looking for lands. There we go. So we went first. We'll go and try to be aggressive here. Got the Poisoner that we can flash in, so if we do want to be cute and attack in, we'll gladly flash that in and try to kill this Crypt Breaker. Let's see if they're smart or if they want to try to press their advantage. They do. Okay, that's not a good play for them. And that's why we're running 2 of those. That flash can be pretty sweet. We're gonna attack. We're gonna keep trying to keep the pressure on. Might have Ebon doesn't quite grow and did 3 points there. And we were just praying for a land here to get our Questing Beast online. Without any Lord effects, the Questing Beast is pretty good. If they have one here, they only get +1, so these become 2/2s. So the Questing Beast can still get through. Now they have the Crypt Breaker, and they can start activating. 2 mana open. They're looking at our stuff. Heartless Axe. Yep. Attack in. You want to draw some cards. They want to attack. We're at 22 and you want to attack in. Okay. So we'll hold up the Poisoners since they seem like they just want to turn them sideways. And we'll try to get their Crypt Breaker again. Just looking for land, green source of any kind. Preferably not a temple at this point. Woodland Cemetery, Overgrown Tomb, either one of those would suffice. This is where I don't really like Crypt Breaker and like the more aggro style lists. Like, are you trying to... Like, do you want to draw cards or do you want to play a 1-1? Because 1-1... It's pretty situational when it's actually going to be beneficial to run it. They have 3 mana open, so they could easily Murderous Rider this Poisoner, but we're going to go for it. Make them have it. And everything's tapped down. So if you want to be aggressive, then you kind of lose the ability to draw cards with your Crypt Breakers. And that's kind of what our opponent is doing, even without Lord effects. So they get to hit us for 3. Cool. We cannot draw lands to save our life, but they're aware of the Poisoners, so we'll keep attacking in, see if they want to play around that. If they just draw out 1,000,000 cards, they would outvalue us. Even if they just blocked and kind of trade off with our creatures, and then tapped them down to draw cards in response. Oh, there's a 4th land, not what we were looking for. We can't play any of these cards. But we're gonna go ahead and keep pushing through. I think our deck wants to be aggressive, so we're gonna force the issue, especially going first. Okay, so they discard make a 2/2 zombie. So they can trade there. I mean, you lose both your creatures because we deal 1 damage to each one with Deathtouch. I'm not sure that was worth it, but I mean, if we don't draw a second green source, then we're kind of screwed. If we draw 5th land of any kind, we get 2 of these back, which is okay. But yeah, these draws have not been kind to us. So our opponent maybe not playing optimally has kind of kept us in the game and made it look to our advantage, even though we've been a little bit screwed on green mana here. They take 2? Wow. Thoughtseize can take anything here. We have double Questing Beast, so not too worried about it. We just need to find a green land so we can actually start casting some stuff. And yeah, they suicide on Thoughtseize, so... yeah. Pretty rough draws, but our opponent just kind of played themselves. Just sad to see, because Zombies is pretty sweet. Haven't seen Death Barons yet, that could be pretty nasty. Obviously Lord of the Curse is pretty powerful. Witch's Vengeance is pretty nice. We do have the Knight into Chevill. So I think we have to try it and just hope for another land. Not sure running Thoughtseize against another aggro list is really where you want to be. But what do I know? We take away our turn 1 play. Sure. Like, taking 2 life just to get rid of a card just doesn't really seem worth it when you're up against another kind of aggro or creature-based list. We do get the Assassin's Trophy, which is decent, but we're really just looking for lands here. So 2 draws and 2 non-lands. Figured by draw number 3 we should find a land. Well, that would probably be a little bit too logical. It is not a land. Well, we can draw a card. So Assassin's Trophy against these aggro lists isn't really too big of a deal. It does slightly thin their deck, but by 1 card I don't think it's really particularly consequential. They could maybe go off and do some things next turn. Do get a land. It is a dual land, which is fine. Do we want a 4th land? We have all these 3 drops, so maybe. Maybe we do. We're at 23, but our board's pretty bad, so let's stay back on defense. They know about these Witch's Vengeance, but from what we've seen these first 2 games, not sure how well they will play around it. They could have like Thoughtseize or something like that. Okay, Midnight Reaper to draw a million cards. That's probably worth it. I think we go for it. We'll name Zombie. So we got rid of 3 creatures. They draw 3, lose 3. We draw a card and gain 3. So that's a pretty decent swing. There's a quest in BZ. So that definitely improves our chances pretty significantly. Yeah, the Midnight Reaper is pretty clutch against that Witch's Vengeance, being able to refill their hand. Especially since they should have lots of decent, cheap creatures, but we'll see how that plays out. Alright, so got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mana. I think actually you want to just add to the board some more. I think that's worth killing, especially in this state. We get to draw a card again and gain some more life. So they get a land, but we also get to draw a card. And so we're pretty much at parity, but we have 2 creatures on board and they have none. So we both have Castle Locthwain, we both have reasonable number of cards in hand, but they don't have anything on board, so I would say we're ahead. Especially with another Witch's Vengeance to follow up when they do play, get some more zombies down. Obviously, yeah, Midnight Reaper is a zombie, so that's a little unfortunate, but it's probably just worth it. Okay, they kill our Chevill. We get to draw a card. Alright. Can't do both. Still think we want to get our Questing Beast online ASAP. Pretty unlikely they block, but we'll see. I'm fine with that if they do. Down to 5. Play Aetherborn, and I think with the Hooded Blightfang, they're pretty much dead next turn. We'll see. Liliana's Mastery. That's pretty good. And then the Murderous Rider, yep. Okay, so they're effectively at 9 here. That's pretty nasty. Out of Witch's Vengeance territory here. Alright, is this enough to kill them? Just on attack triggers? Oh, down to 1. Okay, not quite. Yep. It's the downside of Midnight Reaper not being a Deathtoucher, but the card draw is worth it. So they're going to trade a couple. So they kill our Midnight Reaper, our Questing Beast, and our Gifted Aetherborn. And then go back to 5. Alright, we found another Questing Beast. I guess they could attack in, go up to 9. We're not really representing too much on board. They don't know about this Questing Beast. And they're out of Witch's Vengeance territory. I mean, maybe it might be worth casting a Witch's Vengeance now that our Midnight Reaper is offline. Especially if they hold back the Murderous Rider on defense. So they hit us for 2, sure. Down to 5, so they can't really afford to activate Castle Locthwain. If they do hold back their Rider on defense, then we probably just Witch's Vengeance here. Wow, they went for it. So they're going to attack, I would assume. They're effectively at 8. Oh boy. name zombie and kind of force the issue here. They're at 1, and let's see, they're gaining 1 up to 2. Let me see. What was the math there? So they have this at 1, so they go up to 2. Oh yeah, because they can't block the quest beast now that they are below below power. So yeah, pretty sweet. I said the Blightfang as well there, but I don't think that would have quite been. Well, actually, it might have been. Yeah, pretty sure we had them either way. I mean, we're at 32, and they were obviously a pretty low life total. Mastery is obviously a super sweet card, but at 5 mana, it's pretty expensive for like if you're trying to just be like really aggressive. But they do have like some 3 and 4 drops here, so yeah, I'm not sure about that. Obviously, there's so many different ways you can build zombies. All right, it's Koozy Coos. Okay, opponent, you ready to beat my Deathtouch list? Let's go. I mean, we have a 1, a 2, and a 3, and Vivien some nice card advantage, so I think it's pretty reasonable. Don't love 4 lands, but not going to complain too much. Better than no lands. And the Blightfang as well. That's pretty good. All of our colors as well, so no issues with Questing Beast or Garruk or anything like that. Alright, opponent is showing Gruel so far. Paradise Druid. Obviously, they're not blocking here. We'll hit them for 1, gain 1, see what they got. Gruel Soulbreaker, Questing Beast, Rada. You missed your land drop, you don't have a 3-drop to play. They're going to attack. If they're stuck on 2 lands, I definitely think this is worth trading. I mean, Blightfangs, you can make a case not to, but could have a Stomp here as well. See if they want to fire it off. Shivan Fire. Okay, so no idea what our opponent's up to if they're running Shivan Fire. That seems interesting. So we're going to gain a couple life here. I just keep running out these Blightfangs and then hold Vivien just for to refill. Okay, yeah, you can hit us for 2. We got some life gain. I'm not going to lose my Blightfang to your combat tricks. So you're a dragons list. Seems pretty cool. Alright, we got a bunch of triggers here. Could block our Vampire of the Dire Moon if they want, and then lose their Whelp. Okay with that. The Castle Locthwain and the Vivien to kind of help us draw into some stuff. Vivien can come down, we have 2 mana open, so there's a reasonable chance we draw something. Alright, they're going to kill one of our Blightfangs. But our opponent's not really doing much to add to the board. Also going to be struggling with their land drops as well. I mean, Banefire for 1? That seems pretty good. Oh, we'll just Blightfang. I don't think that's ever really a bad decision. Alright, got a couple triggers, down to 10. Or 9. And the next one we have Vivien with 3 mana opens. That's probably a little bit better. Wow, Spit Flame. Our opponent with all the burn spells here. So I guess there's a dragon list. And this is kind of the best they can do. Odds are we hit something, so we'll go ahead. Oh, jeez, really? Really, deck? Yeah, we'll take a land. If they want to kill our Vivien, so be it. Oh, yeah, we'll take 5. get the trigger. We'll see if they block. Alright, we'll draw a card. Probably should have played land first. Questing. Alright. Laughs. You are having no luck.
I've seen puppies.
That's 2 whiffs in a row. Alright. Let's see how it is. Yeah, we'll attack. They want that trade. Pass turn. Well, Castle Locthwain next turn, take 2. See if I want to attack our Vivien. She's not doing anything for us, so. Vivien, you let me down. We're playing a good number of creatures, so we should be able to. Gotta love the turn 7 or 8 or whatever Dragon's Horde. And they do go after Vivien. Get that off the board. No problem. She was doing nothing for us anyway. Alright. Vraska. Not amazing. Alright, well, we'll dump our hand here. And we still have mana to castle. Or activate the Knight of Ebon. So +3, so that's 5. So we can put out of a Spit Flame range. We'll do fine, take 5. We can pay to put Spit Flame back in their hand, but they don't have mana to actually cast it right now. Here we go. Do you have a 1 mana spell here? A Llanowar Elf, sure. Alright, we'll go ahead and draw. Take 1. Aetherborn. Wow, these draws have been pretty brutal. Alright, we got a million activations on Knight of the Ebon Legion, so we'll see how they block. See if they're paying attention here. You kind of have to block the Knight. We'll pump it up. We're going to keep it alive. So double activation. That's fine. Hit them for 1. Put a counter. We'll get a 2/3 Deathtouch Lightfinger down at 10 life. So they do have the Spit Flame. The Knight's a pretty good target for that, but they just want to go for the Laughless. Not sure that's the right play, but what do I know? Oh, swing all. Keep them on the back foot. Everything has Deathtouch, so we have to activate. That was exactly lethal. Okay. You got it, opponent. Alright, obviously Knight put in some work there, but you know, if opponent has kill spells, and having mana to activate it and then kill it in response feels pretty bad. So generally like to take out the Knight of Ebon Legion in these situations. Vivien does give reach, so unless she's a little iffy, I think I want to keep her. We'll drop the Rhonas again. We can be pretty aggressive in the early, so maybe Rhonas is better, but on the draw, probably not. Definitely want these hard removal spells in. Menagerie, maybe? I mean, Freebooter can kind of throw off their removal spells as well, especially if they start bringing in like sweepers, like Storm's Wrath or things like that. It's a flying chump blocker, so even if it misses, it can just kind of a chump block, but then that's pretty defensive. to try to utilize it that way. Vivien let us down, so we'll shave off one of her. Tormod's Crypt goes with the Spit Flame thingy, but that's pretty not really worth it. Does the Graph Tickers do anything against them? Not really. They get tokens when they play dragons, but they can't really... doesn't really affected by that. And yeah, just hope the Assassin's Trophy can pick off their bigger stuff. And we'd have Chevill into Midnight Reaper, and then some trophies to kind of all the trophies to kill whatever they play. Don't really want to ramp them because they kind of want to ramp out. We probably Midnight Reaper here just to kind of draw some cards because they're going to have removal. And then we can follow up with the Blightfang. And we'll just save the trophy to pick off some of their bigger stuff later on. They have the Lightning Strike. Well, we have another one, but I think I'd rather just get this Reaper down and try to draw some cards. And just looking for lands with this hand. Okay, they just go for the Dragon's Horde. They're going to ramp it up next turn. And Shiv and Fire. So they've had perfect answers every step of the way so far. Yeah, I think we Chevill and Thoughtseize here. So they have potentially 5 mana open next turn. Don't care about that. I mean, they're gonna have removal. So if they want to Spit Flame or Chevill, then they Spit Flame it, but they're not doing anything else. Alright. We could kill the Dragon's Horde as well, but they already have these 3 mana plays. I don't know. If it drew a land, it might have been worth to Blightfang and kill the Dragon's Horde with the trophy. We'll see. I mean, we're given a land either way, so it's kind of... Dragon Horde taps for mana, and Trophy gives them a land. Yep, Spit Flame, they're getting all the value off of that. Not adding to the board, though. Get aggressive swing too. Feeling pretty spiffy over there. You got it. We'll flash you in. There's a tomb. Crash in. They could take the block with the Llanowar. Seems pretty reasonable. Let's actually take away their card draw. I think it's probably worth it. Especially since we're not really doing anything else. They get the land, but they have the Llanowar now, and Dragon Horde taps for mana anyway, but the Horde just gives them a bunch of card draw. So let's go ahead and take that off now. I'm not let them get any additional value. Not worried about these Whelps or the Llanowar Elf. Just worried about their big plays. It's kind of one of the issues with these Dragon decks is how do you kind of find enough, how do you fill out the curve in the lower end while still playing threats to actually make your deck powerful enough. Domri's Ambush. In that case, we'll go ahead and fire this off, kill you. Another land, but we keep our 2/2 alive, since we're not doing much else. At this stage of the game, I don't think the lands on their side really matter anymore. Well, there we go. Down to 6. Alright, opponent. Spitflame can kill the Questing Beast. Binding Dragon. I'll decline. We are looking at 6-7 points of damage. Oh, Prey Upon? Really? That's such suboptimal. Like, you have to have a big creature out to actually make it worthwhile. Alright, let it happen. Their board's empty. We got a trophy. They got the Spitflame in hand that they can get tons of value off of. Vampire. Alright, well, kill my vampire. We desperately need some card draw here. They don't even wait for us to draw Questing Beast. They just fire it off now. Don't think that's worth it, but what do I know? We desperately need to draw something here. Garruk. Can't cast it yet. Alright, was hoping for a creature there. Garruk will do. Alright, so now we don't know what's in their hand anymore. They didn't play it, so it's got to be some kind of a removal spell. Could have lightning strikes. Alright, well, minus. Let's get a 3/3 on board. If they have burn spell, want to kill Garruk, so be it. If they want to kill our 3/3, so be it. Let's get that off the board. Get that out of their hand. Of course, I could just draw another spell, which would be pretty nasty. Spitflame is usually not a good card, but they are just getting tons and tons of value. It's pretty insane here. That is pretty insane value. Yeah, let's fire this off. Don't love to do it. I'd rather save it for a big creature. But I don't think we're in a position to, because it does have this activated ability. Or no, this one does not. Alright, that works. We'll plus. Want to keep our Garruk around. We'll play a Reaver, which they can kill. They've gotten so much value off the Spitflame. That's why people like Spitflame, but usually you don't see it put in this much work. They usually don't get this lucky. But when you play bad decks like this, then it makes good cards like that look good. Alright, so we'll fire off this Aetherborn. Let's get a 3/3 down. Threaten lethal next turn. It's a land, they're dead. Sarkon, that's pretty good. Don't think it does it here though. They can draw and discard, but they have to discard whatever they draw. Or no, actually this is red, so that means you have to discard first. They don't even have that option. Alright, we'll put it on the lifelinker, and yeah, no reason to attack Sarkon. I guess they were waiting to figure out if we were going to attack their face. No reason not to. Alright, so we got some pretty soft matchups there with some of those opponents that seemed like they were playing optimally, or that their decks were 100% optimized. Of course, you could probably say the same thing about me or any of my decks as well. So, ranked gameplay is just kind of a free-for-all, and yeah, Deathtouch, pretty fun little, I think it's like a tribal, but kind of think of it that way. Definitely some different options you could go. Obviously, Reaver is not the best card, but it is pretty fun and can be really nice situationally. Not a huge fan of running like all the Questing Beasts, but I think 3 is a pretty reasonable number. Obviously, I don't think Vraska is a good card, but you know, she does make 1/1s, and she does you know, increase the power of your Deathtouch creatures that you get through. But it's hard to protect her if you're trying to attack in. It just doesn't quite do enough for you really to make it worth running all the copies. Like, you could even just cut Vraska out altogether and probably have a little bit better deck, maybe more removal or something, things like that. But yeah, I think we got kind of the key Deathtouch creatures in here. With obviously you want Hooded Blightfang. Chevill is pretty fantastic. Gifted Aetherborn, since we're mostly black anyway, isn't really a big deal to cast this on turn 2. Every once in a while might get tripped up because we'd have, you know, the 4/4s and things like that. But you know, the green is important to get to Questing Beast and things like that, because Questing Beast is just a fantastic card. But yeah, Knight of the Ebon Legion, just a powerful 1-drop with activated ability given a Deathtouch, fits in nicely here in the late game. Vampire is just a pretty solid one drop on its own. 2 poisoners here to kind of catch your opponent off guard. Obviously the zombie player, a little too aggressive there with their crypt breakers, and we punish them for it pretty hard. So it's pretty nice having 2 of these, but you're not always going to get that. Obviously the more experienced players, shall we say, can kind of play around open mana, and they'll be smart not to attack into things like that. But definitely you can get people in certain situations, whether they're less experienced or their deck is just trying to go sideways no matter what. So yeah, I think it's worth running a couple copies of this. It is a rare, so it's kind of hard to, if you don't already have it, but it is a pretty nice card. Trophy I think is worth running here in Historic, even though you do ramp your opponent, and there are definitely decks that want to ramp. But against a lot of the other decks like aggro, other aggressive type matchups, the land doesn't really matter, and even against the dragons, they just weren't really able to do much with those extra lands that we gave them, and especially get to a point where the extra lands don't really matter because they've already, they got their mana dorks, or they've found lands or other ramp pieces as it is. And then Chevill is pretty fantastic for the card advantage as well. And then the Midnight Reaper, I think it's really key to have at least a couple copies here. You don't really want one more of, because doesn't have Deathtouch, it doesn't have that kind of synergy with like the Hooded Blightfang and things like that. But it does give you that little bit of card draw. It's pretty nice. And we don't care about taking damage because we have ways of gaining life with the Blightfang, the Aetherborn, and the Vampire of the Dire Moon, which all gain you life. Rhonas didn't really do much there, but if your opponent does have a slower deck, or they get off to kind of a slow start, you can definitely punish people and be very aggressive with Rhonas in those situations, so that's why I like running 1 copy. But you can definitely take this out. It is a mythic, it's from the Eminence block, so you might not have it in your collection, so you can easily substitute this out. Vivien, unfortunately didn't really shine in this particular video, but I definitely think there is something there. Maybe it should just be a sideboard card. Maybe I'm just trying too hard. I mean, we have 27 creatures, which is virtually half the deck, so digging 3 cards deep, there's no reason not to hit a creature when that's just under 50% of your deck and you're looking at 3 cards. But it happened twice in a row, so I don't know. But obviously in theory Vivien sounds pretty good. Didn't look too good there. I still believe in her. I think there's definitely something here in a Deathtouch list for not only being able to kind of be cute and flash in some Deathtouch creatures and catch your opponent off guard, but also obviously the reach and vigilance can be nice as well. But -2 for the card advantage is pretty nice, because we kind of need to find ways to get card advantage. Chevill, if you have a Chevill and it lives and it does things, then yeah, it's pretty nice, but that's not always going to work out. If you're not able to attack into your opponent and things like that, you're not able to kill what you have bounty counters on, then it's a little awkward. They just kind of sit there with their bounty counters and you don't really get that value. Midnight Reaper, just a 2 of, you might not draw into it, or again, you might just be in a stalemate where you can attack and your opponent doesn't have good attacks. So Vivien is kind of another way for a card advantage, while also doing some other things as well. And just Planeswalkers are nice because they kind of can distract your opponent to attack into her and kind of preserve your life total as you're kind of digging for more answers. So there's always that value from playing Planeswalkers. But yeah, I still think she belongs. But yeah, if you don't have her, I don't blame you for not crafting the wild cards for her. But if you do have her, I definitely think she's worth a look in a Deathtouch style list like this. We have lots of creatures, so. And then Garruk, yeah, that +3/+3 and trample. Got to see a little bit of that, so that was pretty cool. And yeah, Questing Beast, mana base, didn't really have too many issues, so we were okay with that. We kind of got stuck on 3 lands a little bit. We were running 24, but then we had other games where we kind of drew a bunch of lands. But that's why we have the Castle Locthwain to kind of help us draw out of those situations. So yeah, definitely don't want to go below 24, but that's pretty awkward when you flood out, but we do have some kind of ways to sink mana into it with the Knight of Ebon Legion and things like that, so it's not terrible. Sideboard wise, yeah, I felt pretty comfortable with this list. Didn't get the control matchups to bring in the Freebooter, which is fine. Definitely not going to complain about not seeing counter spells and Teferis and all that nonsense. Witch's Vengeance was pretty good. Unfortunately, that one zombie list kind of got over it, but even then we were still able to leverage it to our advantage, and so our opponent didn't really have good blocks, and they couldn't even attack our Questing Beast at all, so that was pretty cool. And then I do like the Gruesome Menagerie as a way to kind of refill against removal heavy decks as well. If you don't have it, you can also just run like the Call of the Death Door or something like that. It's pretty fantastic to get at least 2 creatures back potentially. And yeah, having the kill anything, Murderous Rider, I definitely think is worth it. But if you don't, I was looking at Noxious Grasp here as well, but yeah, I think just Murderous Rider is just better being able to kill anything as far as creatures or planeswalkers go. And of course, Grafdigger's Cage is a must, especially as long as you know, Mux is a threat. And then you do need some graveyard exile. So I think Tormod's Crypt is the way to go for that. So it is a 0 mana spell, and we want to be kind of casting creatures and removal and things like that with our list. And so having an artifact that doesn't cost anything is pretty fantastic. So pretty much handle any of the graveyard decks. And don't need to worry about like Leyline of the Void. Usually just like a one-shot, kind of get rid of the graveyard is all you need, unless you're just like a super slow, grindy late-game deck. Then that's where like a Leyline of the Void might be a little bit better. But yeah, I think Tormod's Crypt fills that graveyard hate pretty nicely. You could bring in Ashiok as well if you want to play 3-mana Ashiok to you know, mill your opponent some cards and then exile their graveyard. That could be a pretty reasonable option as well. But yeah, I like Tormod's Crypt just because it's basically a free spell, and then you can activate it immediately. So yeah, just hold this in your hand, and then when you're ready to actually use it, just cast it for free, and get rid of your opponent's graveyard out of nowhere, and it kind of throws off their whole strategy. And then yeah, Thoughtseize has become kind of a must. We have life gain, so we don't care about losing life, obviously. And yeah, so Deathtouch, pretty fun little tribal list. It is a little bit on the jankier side. Not going to get you too high up on the ranking ladder, but can certainly hold its own and can help you rank up at least out of the lower levels at a minimum. So yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, make sure you jank with a purpose.